Welcome back. Let's bring in our guests who represented Ekiti Central in the National Assembly, in the Senate, as well as a veteran journalist. He's been through the trenches, and he's also served as a politician in the Fourth Republic, Senator Babafemi Ojudu. Distinguished, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
It's good to see you. As a matter of fact, when the names were reeled out, so national honors, some of us were thinking that some names, we were looking out for some names. We saw some of the ones we expected from the people that were in the trenches. We're also looking out for your name, but I don't think we saw your name. How does that make you feel?
I'm indifferent. You know, like I said in the statement I issued, I didn't go into all that trouble for the purpose of honor. And I would also like to assure you that some were honored yesterday, some are honored today, some will be honored tomorrow. But it's not important, really. For as long as you act true to your conscience, honor is very secondary. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the reasons I asked that question is because your brother, literally your brother in the trenches, Bayo Nanuga, who we know you worked together
Yes.
in the 90s, has also been honored. So we felt that, because when we hear Babafemi Ojudu, we see Bayo Nanuga, see Babafemi Ojudu. So that's why we're asking that question. But have you been in touch with him as your friend?
Oh, we're actually more than friends. We are family. But you know, he's working in a different environment today. I honestly, don't let us make an issue of this. You know, I was honored by Buhari with a CON. He was not honored. He didn't make an issue about it. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for all my colleagues who are honored. As I said, you know, I mean, honor, you know, comes at different times. You know, it could be my turn again tomorrow. So it doesn't make any difference to me. The honor that we all are looking for is the fact that we are all, you know, satisfied about what we did and the contributions we made, and that for me is sufficient. And I just want to use the opportunity to say that now that the president has honored those who he deemed to deserve honor, he should also honor Nigerians by, you know, giving them good governance. That's all. That's my only concern.
All right, Senator, we're going to come to the issue of good governance in just a moment. But let's walk back in just a little bit, because having you, there are so many spectrum to how far we can go to you because of what you embody, both as a journalist who curated this history of our country, as a politician who contributed your quota at the National Assembly. So let's get to page one, which has to do with the trenches. After June 12, there has been so many, June 12, I mean the 2025, there has been so many talk about who played what role, dramatis personae in June 12. Some are now saying, alleging that some persons, were pretenders in the struggle. Some said you supported this, some said you supported that. It's been revisionist and revisionism in that sense as far as the issue of June 12 is concerned. But now that we have you and we know you were a part of those in the trenches, when you reflect on June 12 and nexus it with what is playing out today, what should we be focusing on and what should be our major reflection?
Well, I think it's the history of June 12 is a very recent one. If you look at the history of nations. So I don't think anybody should be in doubt as to who did what, you know, on this particular incident. So for me, whoever is saying something that is far from the truth must be doing so for the purpose of mischief. Let's take politics aside. I think you are trying to refer to the statement made by Governor Sule Lamido. I think what he did was not quite right. Honor should be given to who honor is due to. So for me, I can reel out the names of those who did quite a lot in the course of that, our national crisis. I believe that if Sule Lamido and members of his political group then had been part of the struggle to actualize June 12, people would not have referred to the Yorubas domesticating June 12 and therefore making it a tribal affair. They ran away. They handed over power to the military and rubbished that election itself and said all kinds of things. Despite the fact that they were leaders of the party that brought about that victory that was denied to Abiola. So for me, it's just not right. It's not, facts is facts. History is history, and politics is politics. What I saw in that statement was politics and not fact, not history. So it was very wrong. And to be categorical, you can't take away the role played by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu during that. It played a yeoman's role, and he should be commended for that, not minding what is happening today. But I want to point out that again, and that's to President Tinubu now, that is the danger he faces. If it ends up the way things are now, all of the noble things in the past will be wiped off by historians in the history books. So that's why he should do everything possible, to come out of this new assignment, installing records, give the people a lease of life, good governance, consolidate democracy, and make sure that all these institutions of democracy are strengthened rather than being what they are now.
Well, we've been listening to some of those accounts, and this is particularly important for the pretty much younger generation that were not quite adults in the 90s, such that they can properly put history in context. And the son of the late martyr of democracy, Kola Abiola, has been speaking in an interview granted to online media. And he's been saying that, look, in fact, at that time, the current president and senator at that time was in some form of talks with the Abacha administration, and he was in some negotiations to the effect that he was asking to be made either a governor or a commissioner in Lagos State at the time when there were negotiations for a form of democratic government at the state level. So is this also part of the history of June 12? And why are commentators silent on this aspect of history?
Well, let me say that there was no negotiation that Tinubu made with Abacha during that period that Abiola was not part of. No, none. And I can assure you that Abacha, at that point in time, negotiated with Abiola, with Tinubu, the president. He negotiated with, our top members of the civil society group. He negotiated with media chiefs as well. And, you couldn't then blame anybody for whatever negotiation that happened. And what he offered then was that, come, gentlemen, I'm very sincere. I'm here to clean up the situation in the military. As soon as that is over, I'm going to step aside and, recognize June 12 and swear in Abiola. To convince them that he was serious about doing that, he then offered to make some of the top politicians then who were clamoring for June 12 deputy governors to the administrators that he was going to appoint when he takes over. So it's not a secret thing. A good number of us who are in one way or the other involved in those talks at that time. The mistake we made was believing Abacha, not realizing then that he was playing that game of deception, which is very known with military men. So I don't think that was a betrayal. No, it wasn't a betrayal. It was a man who came up and said he was a democratic general, and that he has a body of officers who are with him and those who are against him in his attempt to validate June 12 election. That was why Idia, for example, worked with him. That was why people like David Mark also trying to join. No, not David Mark. A few other officers tried to join him to be part of the move to take over from ING, and this was supported actively by Abiola himself and by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I don't think that was done purposely because of one appointment or the other. For Kola Abiola, I think that he showed his hand too early in being the son of an elected president And in the course of campaign, he stepped on toes, you know. Even if he stepped on the toes of people like Kalagi, Babagana Kingibe, to the point that by the time even the election was going on, I'm not sure he was on speaking terms with Kola Abiola, and he was a young man then, and you know what it means when you are young and you are the son of a rich man and a powerful man who is about to acquire more power, and then you want to be assertive and
sir,
you know, let people know you are the closest. So that was how his relationship with people like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with Bakana Gana and other political figures around his father, you know, became estranged. And that estrangement is what I believe has led to, you know, what you are seeing today and the kind of allegations he's making. Yeah.
So doesn't then this seem like a form of compromise at the time? And doesn't it support the position of the son of late Tony Anene, who has since responded to what the presidency has put out to defend the role of the president, when he said late Tony Anene, in fact, warned Abiola at the time about his alliance with the military, that he would backfire. And in relation to that, what does former Governor Sule Lamido mean when he said that the current president was working hand in glove with IBB?
No, I don't think so. That's not true. That's not true. I will tell you that that's not true. Because again, soon as IBB and all that election, Tinubu rose up with others and began to fight. I remember that he was arrested, locked up at Alagbo Close, and was kept under his care, and sitting day long and sleeping on the mattress on the floor. Not far from him was Chief Anthony Enahoro. I went to visit him several times in that situation, and he kept, demanding to know what was happening outside. People, who had been ordered to stay at home, not going to work, are they complying? If they are not complying, what can we do to make them comply and all of that? You cannot describe someone doing that as somebody working hand in glove with the military. That's not true. He took a lot of risks. I must tell you, he took a lot of risks, and he put in a lot of resources. He was single-minded in his determination to make sure that the military was taken out. There are a lot of things he did that one could not begin to say on this forum that history we later recant. So saying that now, for me, it's absolute revisionism. It's not right. These same people who are now talking that were not part of it. Don't mind Aneni's son, don't mind whatever Aneni has put in the book. From the moment that election was annulled, the man took off and began to negotiate his way, on now to, be part of whatever it is going to be in the place of June 12. It's like, people coming to say that Abiola and Obasanjo fought for June 12 or whatever. No, a good number of them were opposed to, Abiola ab initio, right from, they just coasted along when they no longer could control things. So the moment that the military saw the need to annul the election, they jumped ship, and they made all kinds of statements that were, that were unsavory, and if they had stood firm, the chairman of the party, the secretary of the party, all of the leadership of the party, if they had stood firm, Abacha wouldn't have been able to do what he did. But when the IED came into place, and prominent Nigerians and some of the supporters of Abiola were appointed into government, people like Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, Ebenezer Obatowe were appointed into government, then there was a need to negotiate, particularly when Abacha offered that olive branch that, look, I'm in support of June 12. It's Babangida who is against June 12. Therefore, let me take over, take out all of those officers that are anti-June 12 from the army, clean the audience table, and then between 3 and 6 months, we then, review this matter. They are not June 12, and, swear in Abiola. I think, there were voices of caution at that time that, look, particularly coming from Dr. Beko and some Kuti. There are new people, you have to be careful. Are you sure this man is not deceiving us? But again, the fact that people were anxious to take over power and to negotiate, led to people believing what Abacha promised. And as soon as Abacha got in there, And the signals were that, first of all, the first thing he promised was to make some of the politicians deputy governors to administrators, so that they could be assured that he will hand over. The moment he reneged on that, then people said, this fellow will not even hand over as he promised. So let us intensify our fights against him. Let us combat him a bit more. Let us acquire, a radio, our own private radio. Let some people go abroad, and propagate the cause. I mean, people like Professor Bolaji Akinwumi who are quickly dispatched abroad to act as a spokesperson to, get in touch with foreign countries and their diplomats and all of that. So for me, it wasn't betrayal. It was people who are desperate to ensure that election was disannulled, and then they went into a negotiation with a man who was not sincere.
All right, Senator, apparently from your story and from all the accounts we've looked at, it looks like Abacha played literally everybody. That is alluding to the story. It looks like some people were, look, we have to allude this thing to the end. Others say, okay, let's smoothen it out with whatever transition it is, hand over power to us. Others wanted maybe outright cancellation, another election altogether. So there were like 3 sets of narrative, and well, everybody got mopped up.
Well, can I tell you this? Can I tell you this? Aneni belongs to PDM. That's the Adwa camp, of the SDP. They were ab initio not happy that Abiola picked that ticket, and they wanted a situation whereby there could be another election, so that Adwa himself could contest and become president. That was as soon as they saw that there was a problem. If not that they even themselves encouraged that problem to come up, they jumped ship. That is the simple story. It's not. Don't let us beat about the bush. They contest that faction of SDP contested strongly against Abiola at the Just Convention, and they lost to him. And they just coasted along through that election process. The first thing was that people thought that the election was not going to go well. Some thought there was going to be violence, but unfortunately for Nigeria, everything went peacefully. Abiola won in places where he was thought not to have influence and all of that, and they were stunned. So immediately they all moved to the next line of action, which is convincing the military, to annul the election. And as soon as that was done, they joined their party, SDP, and move on to the next agenda. And at this time, Abacha, who had been Babangida's savior once or twice, as a military man who was challenged by younger officers in a coup, then wanted to make real his own ambition to become president. He had been told by Marabouts that he was one day going to rule Nigeria, and he saw an opportunity, to make that real, and he went with it using his military training and the act of deception to get people to buy his story and deceive everybody. That was it. Simple.
All right. All right, now that we're done with History 101 of June 12, you have rightly challenged Mr. President to honor the ideals of June 12 by giving good governance. So let's talk about good governance. Over the weekend, even after Mr. President's visit to Yelwata in Benue State, we still recorded incidents of murders of 12 travelers from Kaduna to Jos. There was suicide bombing reported in Borno, and prior to that there were even reports of attacks in Jos as well, just after the Yelwata attack in Benue State. What are your thoughts on what is playing out as far as the handling of security is concerned, as against what was promised by the APC administration at the onset of the campaigns of this current APC government?
Yeah, okay. I'm a member of APC. I shouldn't be seen to be deliberately going out to criticize a president elected on the platform of the party I belong to. But let me just say a bit of the truth here, not minding that I could be condemned by members of my party. I think the security issue is worrisome. It's worrisome, and I'm not too happy the way it is being handled. We are handling it as if it is something. It is a skirmish between two policemen or some bad boys on the street or whatever. This is serious challenge, to the existence of this country itself. You go to the North Central, you go to Northeast, you go to Northwest, even even places as close to Yoruba land as Kogi State, as Kwara State, bandits are already on rampage. The president needs to wake up and find solution to these problems. You cannot, all of these palliatives about going to a hall in Benue State to talk to people, crack jokes, and this and that, it's not the solution. It should hand, a marching order out to the military officials, the police hierarchy, the army, the navy, the air force, the intelligence agencies should come up together and come up with a master plan to quickly solve this problem. If these things continue to the election time, we do not know the use that those people could be put into, and that will itself threaten the fabric of this society. I'm worried about that. I'm very, very worried. The way things are going, people are being slaughtered, people are being kidnapped. I watched a clip a few days ago of a 95-year-old king in southern Kogi State, one town in Okun, part of Kogi State. A 95-year-old man was kidnapped, taken into the bush. They had to, pay ransom, and the man was brought on the back of a bike to the town, weak, tired, and emaciated. Honestly, I tears, dropped, from my eyes, seeing that kind of sight. It's not good. It's not good for us. Something has to be done. We should not sit written in Abuja and think that things are going well. Things are not going on well. The challenge of security is a very palpable one, and the president must sit up, quickly. And his advisors should let him know, if he doesn't, that this itself threatens democracy. And we don't want to go back to the military era anymore. We don't want to start running into exile or being jailed and all of that. Let him quickly solve this problem because before it becomes, what is going to destroy this democracy.
All right, Senator, one of the things we know about is that you speak your mind no matter whose ox is God. Yes. You have that trail of history. We followed it over the years. I know that you even, if I'm correct, you disagreed vehemently with the president's position on the removal of governors, the governor, yes, and the members of the State Assembly in Rivers State. Right. And I think you got a lot of flack for that. But where I'm going to with that is that there's a write-up, a fantastic, some kind of a solution-driven piece written by Olisa Agbakoba, the senior advocate of Nigeria, on June the 5th, yes, when he was talking, yes, about the fact that, paraphrasing, he simply said that whatever we talk about economic reforms and the numbers we put out, but without a political governance reform, all of this will be flawed. Yeah. And he talked about the issue of restructuring. But let me read what he said and get your response. He said, right, just a paragraph. He said, however, the critical question is not whether these reforms were correct. They were. But whether they can achieve their intended impact in the context of Nigeria's governance structure. Economic reforms operate within political systems. And when those systems are fundamentally flawed, even the best economic policies produce suboptimal results. Those were his words. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to tinker with the structure if you don't do. And my surprise is that rather than, I know President Tinubu to believe in restructuring. The way, things are being run now, he seems to be consolidating more powers in the hands of the federal government. The other day, I saw all these development commissions again being everywhere. We don't need all of those things. You are again putting more powers in the hand of the federal government. The federal government will appoint people who will serve on those agencies and, give them money and control them and all of that. When we should be dismantling all of the agencies of the federal government that are in those zones across the country. So we need to restructure. If we don't restructure, it just will not be all right. Look at the police. We need to restructure the police. We need to restructure all. Look, if you restructure and then again, economically, even ask everyone to take charge and control of the economic assets in their zones and then pay tax to the federal government, it will make people a bit more hardworking. Then, governors will not collect money from Abuja change them to foreign exchange over there, and go and keep them in their personal accounts. People will be able to see where the money is coming from and challenge them on how the money is being spent. But now, everything is in the hand of the president, and the president can see everywhere, can't know what is going everywhere, and they will continuously deceive him, and, and he will be sitting on a seat that is hollow. But if you structure, as Abakuba, canvassed, and then get us close to what we used to have, pre and post independence in Nigeria, then it will be better. Housing should be in the hand of the local authorities. Policing to an extent should be in the hand of the local authorities. Education matters should be in the hand of the local authorities. Imagine what happened with JAMB, controlling admission process, from Abuja. And then people were still writing exam at 8 p.m. because of, lack of good organization and administration. All of those things should be taken off the federal government. Leave the federal government with defense. Leave the federal government with diplomacy. Leave the federal government with issuing currency. And, leave the federal government with custom duties and all of that. Give the port to Lagos. Let Lagos handle its own port. Let Calabar handle its own port. Let Port Harcourt handle its own port. And leave a lot of other things, mineral resources, in Zamfara, in the hands of Zamfara state government, where you have somebody in Abuja who has never been to Zamfara, has never been to the mining site, managing mining. These things look ridiculous. And that's why we are in the state of confusion we are in today.
And so perhaps you might have a bird's eye view of what happens when politicians get into office. At the beginning of the administration, there was enthusiasm about the commencement of the implementation of the Oronsai report. And we heard about the agencies that would be merged and those that would be, collapsed outright. What really, does happen that alters the enthusiasm at the beginning of the real commitment to change? And we might want to also ask the same question of the ongoing constitution review at the National Assembly as well, that also has a component of state policing. The challenges of security are not waiting, but the constitution review seems not to be moving as fast as required. Perhaps you want to talk to us about that.
Yeah, let me just say that an average politician loves power and loves absolute power. If a politician tells you that, oh, I'm going to give away some of the power that I've acquired, just know that that's a lie. At the beginning of this administration, I told some of our colleagues who are in some Yoruba groups that, when they were, expressing excitedness about now having someone who had canvassed in the past for restructuring, holding the lever of power. I said, this will not happen. Just the way Obasanjo never tried to devolve power, and Buhari refused to devolve power. So with Tinubu refused to devolve power. What ought to have happened would have been to have a robust National Assembly, where several people, from different backgrounds, from, every zones have come together and see the benefit of devolution of power, coming to make laws that will ensure that this do happen, and then compelling the president to sign those laws. But unfortunately, the National Assembly has become an arm of the executive, and they can't even attempt to look at these these changes that could bring about profound benefit to Nigeria. It's unfortunate, but if anybody thinks all of that will happen under this regime, the person is joking, or even the regime that may come. It's right. Except we have noble men and women in our National Assembly who will be up to the task, who will put the interests of Nigeria first, and then come up with laws that will ensure that Nigeria, the federal government checks power for the regions and for the states.
All right, Senator, I am in copy of your book, Adventures of a Guerrilla Journalist. I have it here. I looked at a few pages before I got here, and I think it's a good read for anyone who is interested in journalism, and brave journalism at that. We must thank you for your contribution. And I don't know whether you're interested in going back to the National Assembly, because we need your kind of voices who don't care about political parties, just want to care about Nigeria. But are you going back anytime soon, yes or no?
Let me say, never say never. But
okay.
left to the kind of life I live now, I don't think it's worth going back. I'm going on 65, and I've discovered a life that gives peace, that gives fulfillment. I live in my town now, in an environment I call the farm. I wake up, look after my fishes, look after my birds, look after my goats, look after my flowers and trees around me.
Okay.
And I'm mentoring a couple of young people. I'm part of a club, and teach people on how to read and write and all of that. I'm having fun. I'm collecting my arts and watching Nigeria from a distance and making comments from time to time.
All right, Senator.
Let me say this. I think the motivation for power these days has become money. How to make billions of naira, how to buy private jets, how to build houses all over cities and in Ghana, in Europe, in America, and all of that. That is the motivation. So who do you want to go and work with in those places?
Okay.
Are you going to be work? Yeah. So
Senator, we're going to bring you back. Of course, this is our first outing on the morning brief. You have a lot to contribute. So you become one of our regular features in the coming days as much as you have time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Babafemi Ojudu is a veteran journalist and a former member of the National Assembly, served in the Senate representing Ekiti Central. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Yeah.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll zoom in big time into security, or let's call it insecurity. The president went to Benue, and just after he went to Benue, there has been a series of violence and killings. The president was literally furious the other day, and he said, no, this is no longer, it's no longer acceptable, when he highlighted all of these things. That's what we'll talk about with one man who has been in the intelligence community and understand how this works. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.